The first thing I realized upon meeting Maya Kurose, she was tiny. And I don't mean petite cutie or short teammate. She was spiritually, structurally, and defiantly small. 4'10" on a good day, in sneakers. The kind of height where a regular backpack looks like an independent entity with its own opinions, and the top shelf at the supermarket is Everest. By all laws of nature, such a body should have come with a meek disposition, or at least a shred of humility. Unfortunately, Maya had neither. She radiated the energy of a battle general trapped in a teenager's body. We properly met on a Tuesday. Tuesdays were conditioning days, clearly invented by people who genuinely hated human anatomy and wanted to make it everyone else's problem. The coach split us into pairs for drills. I was standing with my hands on my knees, trying to remember if lungs were supposed to burn this brightly, when a clap sounded. "Adrian, you're with Maya." I straightened up and looked to the other end of the gym. That was my first mistake. From afar, Maya looked harmless. A thin ponytail, huge eyes, the look of a girl who covers her water bottle with stickers and apologizes if she accidentally bumps into you in the hallway. But she didn't walk over. She marched toward me as if she'd already reviewed my file, found it unsatisfactory, and planned to personally oversee my re-education. She stopped right in front of me and tilted her head up. Technically, very far up. "You're slower than I expected," she announced instead of a greeting. "Good morning to you too," I grunted. That was a good morning, just in wrapping paper of constructive criticism. No, that was aggression in a disguise costume. Maya crossed her arms, not the least bit embarrassed. Too much chatter for a man with such heavy footwork. No warm-up, no social pleasantries, straight to violence. I looked around for another Maya. Maybe I'd been mistakenly paired with this pocket-sized menace? No, just her, staring at me as if my presence on her team was personally ruining the stats. "Do you always start conversations like a disappointed uncle?" I asked. "And do you always move as if knees are an optional feature?" I chuckled involuntarily. Not because it was funny, but because when a girl this tall insults you with such confidence, your brain needs time to reboot. The coach whistled and we started shuttle runs. Maya bolted first, fast, annoyingly fast. That was the second thing I learned about her. She wasn't just loud, she was damn good. Not a single wasted gesture, absolute control over her body, frightening focus. Next to her, my athleticism suddenly seemed purely decorative. "Are you training or rehearsing laziness?" she tossed out, finishing at the line. "Do you get paid for being toxic?" "No," she snapped. "It's a volunteer project." By the end of practice, she had corrected my stance 3 times, mocked my acceleration twice, and once slapped my shoulder with a, "No, not like that." Her tone was that of someone training a large, but not particularly bright dog. And the most humiliating part? I obeyed. Not out of respect for authority, but because Maya was impossible to ignore. She had an aura that defied the laws of physics. The smallest person in the gym, she managed to fill the entire space with her voice and will. When we finished, I was packing up when I heard her voice again. "And you're just going to leave like that?" I looked up. Maya was standing by the bench, a towel around her neck. "Like that, how?" "Without a cool down." I stretched. "No, you bent over once with an offended look on your face. That doesn't count as exercise." "Emotionally, it does." I slung my bag over my shoulder and headed for the exit, but Maya managed to grab the strap of my backpack. This is an important point. When someone her height grabs your backpack, you have 2 options. Ignore it, or suddenly realize that the tiny fury has just revoked your right to move. I chose the second option. 5 minutes, she ordered. What? Stretch, Or tomorrow you'll move even worse than usual. Your optimism about my abilities is inspiring. Maya rolled her eyes and pointed to a mat. Sit down. And I sat down. Apparently, some part of me had already recognized her authority over my schedule. She crouched down next to me, continuing to correct my form as if she'd been appointed guardian of my musculoskeletal system. Your leg is too tight. That sounds too personal. It sounds like a diagnosis. You know, normal people say please before ordering grown men around. Normal grown men don't need such careful supervision. I smirked and leaned deeper, just to make her stop. It didn't help. Relax your shoulders, too. I looked at her. Maya. What? You are the most despotic person I've ever met in my life. She looked up at me from below, her elbow on her knee, and answered with complete seriousness. Yes. That answer shouldn't have affected me, but it did. Who even answers like that? Who accepts the title of despotic as a well-deserved award? I didn't know it then, but this was only the beginning. Maya Kurose was tiny, but she had a plan for my life, my hydration schedule, and my knees. And apparently, resistance was not only futile, but strategically unwise. By the next week, Maya Kurose had stopped being just a partner. She had become a regular phenomenon, something like a chronic injury or a fire alarm that had an opinion on everything. If I came to practice, she was already there. If I tried to do anything in silence, she noticed it. The moment I made one tiny, completely harmless mistake, Maya materialized next to me like a 5-ton disciplinary committee packed into 4 feet 10. The worst part wasn't that she bossed me around. The worst part was that I obeyed. Monday started badly because I was late. Just by a minute. Okay, a minute and a half, if you're a pedant, or Maya Kurose, who believes a stopwatch is an instrument of moral justice. I ran into the gym, zipping my bag on the go, and before the coach could look up from his tablet, Maya's voice cut through the air. You're late. I froze. Good morning to you too. That was a good morning. No, that was surveillance. Maya was sitting on the floor, stretching in a pose that made her look like a very angry sports gargoyle. She sized me up and added, "And you're not wearing the right shoes." They're shoes, Maya. They're your slow shoes. Your footwork becomes catastrophic in the black pair. I opened my mouth to argue, but the coach whistled for the start of warm-up. I had to run into formation under her intense, satisfied gaze. The worst part? On the very second turn, I tripped. Maya just pointed at me from across the court. See? You're insufferable, I threw out as I ran past. And right. By the end of practice, she had corrected my stance, timing, posture, and how I tied my hair during cardio. Yes, my hair. You keep touching your face, she said, blocking my path to the towel. Because sweat exists, Maya. Because your hair is getting in your eyes. She held out a hair tie. I stared at her palm. Do you carry spare equipment just for me? I carry it for the team. You're just the tallest structural flaw in this gym. She didn't leave until I had retied my ponytail under her expert guidance. No, not like that. You're tying it too low, that's why it slips. I've seen it 3 times already. I looked around. Is anyone else hearing how insane this is? No one helped. Traitors. On Wednesday, the coach paired us up for strategy analysis. We sat in the stands with a tablet, and Maya explained positioning principles as if she had personally invented team sports, and I was lucky to be present for the reading of the sacred texts. You drift too far left. That's because you yell so loudly that I lose my sense of spatial orientation. That sounds like a personal weakness. That sounds like I'm being terrorized by someone who's still eligible for the kids' menu at restaurants, but chose the path of violence anyway. Maya stopped writing and slowly raised her head. I'm not that short. I smiled. You are exactly that short. For the first time, I saw her genuinely affected. She straightened up, an amusing choice given that there still wasn't enough of her to look threatening. I am not 4'8". Wow, I beamed. So you've had to defend a specific number before? People talk nonsense. Maya, this is magnificent. I am 4'10". There it was, that precision, that instant readiness to defend her height. I buried my face in my hands, shaking with laughter, while our pocket-sized dictator drilled me with her stare. From Thursday onward, her orders extended beyond the court. Eat before warm-up. Don't sit here, the AC draft is blowing. Use the blue resistance band, the red one is for weaklings. Text me when you get home, your knee looked weird. The last one made me freeze. We were standing by the equipment rack. What? I repeated. Your knee. I hear the words. I'm trying to process the level of authority. Maya adjusted her bag strap. It's not authority, it's basic management. Your knee drifted right on the third lap, and you've been limping on one side for the last 3 hours. I said nothing, because she was right. Again. She'd noticed it before I had. By Friday, the situation had become critical. If the coach corrected me, I listened because I wanted to stay on the team. If Maya corrected me, I reacted before my pride could mount a defense. The scariest part? She didn't boss everyone around. With others, she was just sharp and demanding. With me, it was personal. You're tired. You're not focused. You're twitching your left shoulder when irritated. Why are you in a bad mood? I looked at her in the hallway after a bad math test. You're acting grumpier than usual, she stated, crossing her arms. That's an incredible statement from someone I could fit in my locker. See? Maya smirked. You're not even denying it. My 4'10" partner had somehow become the captain of Operation Adrian. She kept giving orders, and the dangerous truth was that she was paying more attention to me than anyone else on this team. I started looking for her the moment I entered the gym, and honestly, that was beginning to worry me. By the third week, Maya had stopped being just a partner and become an unavoidable factor, like weather or gravity. She was everywhere. If I sat down to rest too long, she was there. If I tried to skip cooldown, she materialized behind me. If I chatted with Noah instead of filling my water bottle, Maya appeared at my elbow like a tiny emotional state inspector. And the situation worsened, because now she started touching me. No, it wasn't romantic. It was practical, which is 10 times more dangerous. She tugged my sleeve if I walked the wrong way, slapped my wrist when I grabbed the wrong resistance band. And once, she simply hooked her fingers into the back of my shirt collar from behind and pulled me into position during a drill. Wrong way, giant! Are you blind? I spun around so fast I nearly knocked her over. Maya didn't even flinch. She just looked up at me and stated, "If you fall on me, I will destroy your life." That sounds like a threat. That sounds like a promise. The problem was, I couldn't complain about it. The moment I said, "Hey, stop dragging me around the gym like a shopping cart," she'd come back with something devastatingly logical. Then stop constantly being in the wrong place. And she was right. Infuriatingly, systematically right. At Saturday's game, the coach was in a bad mood. The gym was loud and hot. I was standing by the bleachers, discussing my knee brace with the assistant, when a familiar voice came from behind. "You tied it wrong." Before I could answer, Maya was already dropping to one knee in front of me. She started retaping my leg with the confidence of someone exercising her legal right. I looked down, then around. Half the team was standing nearby, and no one reacted. Apparently, I was the last to realize. Maya had officially inserted herself into my maintenance schedule. "You can't just drop to your knees in front of me in front of everyone," I whispered. "I can if you're doing it halfway," she replied without looking up. "Your joint won't thank you for that hack job." She finished in 10 seconds, slapped my calf, stood up, and tossed out, "Done. Try not to self-destruct before the end of halftime." Noah came over to me a second later. That looked very familial, like she pays your taxes. "Disappear." "I'm serious. She wrapped your knee like she has a deed of ownership over you." The strangest thing happened after the shower. Tyler, a guy from another group, decided to make a joke. "Hey Adrian, what's it like taking orders from a 5th grader?" I didn't even have time to inhale a response when Maya, who was 10 feet away, spun around. "He listens because I'm right, and you're here for decoration, and that's questionable. Go do your job before I find flaws in your technique." Tyler blinked, tried to force a laugh, but seeing her face, chose to retreat. I looked at Maya. That was intense. That was fair. "You can't defend me like an enraged gremlin. It gives the impression that you own me." Maya looked at me. Her gaze shifted for just a fraction of a second. "That's your problem," she snapped and walked away. And then it hit me. Maya didn't just boss me around. She acted as if only she was allowed to criticize, correct, and tease me. For everyone else, I was under her jurisdiction. And the worst part? My nervous system had already adapted. I found myself looking for her eyes after every good or bad move. I had started getting used to having a tiny dictator in cool sneakers always behind my back. Maya Karos can insult, correct, and emotionally destabilize you in 15 seconds. But as it turned out on Thursday, no one else in this world was granted that privilege. We were practicing defensive maneuvers, and the coach, in a fit of pedagogical sadism, mixed the groups. That's how I ended up paired with Brent, a guy nearly 6'5" who thought sarcasm got funnier the louder you shouted it across the gym. By the third round, I missed a rotation because Brent changed direction too late, and then he threw his hands up dramatically, blaming the universe and me personally. "Come on, man, you fall asleep out there? Ask your mini manager to explain the rules to you again." The gym went quiet for a second. I felt it before I even turned around. You know that specific feeling when the atmospheric pressure suddenly changes because someone 4'10" at the other end of the gym has decided to go into liquidation mode? Maya was walking toward us. Not running, that would have looked too emotional. She walked steadily and confidently, with the look of someone who had already chosen the burial site for your self-esteem. She stopped between me and Brent. She had to tilt her chin up to look him in the eye, but at that moment, Brent was the one who looked small. "Repeat what you said," she demanded. Her voice wasn't loud, but it had that surgical precision that's scarier than shouting. "Hey, relax." Brent tried to force a smirk. "I was just joking." "No, you weren't. You're just slow, loud, and deeply insecure. Packing all that into one set is an embarrassment to the team." One of the freshmen by the cones made a sound like a suppressed whimper. Brent turned red. "Listen here, psycho. You can either be a bad player or a bad conversationalist. Pick one, Brent. Watching both of your talents at once is beyond my capacity." It was art. Angry, concentrated art. Brent muttered something and retreated to the far line. Maya stood for another second as if checking whether a finishing shot was necessary, then turned to me. Now for the interesting part. She didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't become the nice partner. She crossed her arms and said, "Your timing was still terrible. You drift left under pressure." I stared at her, then just laughed. "You're incredible." "And you're still drifting wrong. That's not a compliment, giant." In that moment, I understood. Maya tolerated attacks on me in only one case, if they came from her. It was some perverse form of territorial instinct. She could steal my water, fix my hair, and boss around my knees, But the moment someone else looked at me sideways, she turned into a pocket-sized berserker. Later, in the locker room, Noah couldn't resist. You do realize she almost destroyed Brent on a molecular level? She's just hyper-responsible. Dude, Noah gave me a sympathetic look. She acts like only she has a license to call you an idiot. And if you don't see that, your slow sneakers are the least of your problems. I shoved my shirt into my bag and said nothing. Because Noah was right. Maya wasn't just bossing me around. She was protecting her territory. And that territory, apparently, was me. And the scariest part? I was starting to like it. By the time Maya moved to the language of possessive gestures, I was officially in trouble. Not because I fully understood what was happening, but because part of me had accepted this new state of affairs before my brain could formulate a protest. There are things people do when they're attached to you, but don't know how to put it into words. They tug your sleeve instead of calling your name. They save you a seat without asking. They get genuinely annoyed when you're late to where they never promised to wait for you. Maya did all of this at once. And the problem was that once I noticed the system, it was impossible to unsee. It started with the trip to an away game. The coach made the fatal mistake of letting us choose our own seats. I had almost landed next to Noah when Maya materialized in the aisle. She looked at me, then at Noah, and stated, "No." "What no?" Noah blinked. "That's my seat." I looked at the empty bench 3 rows away, then back at her. "Actually, it's not." "Now it is." "Maya, that's not how seats work." "This one works exactly like that." Noah, that treacherous coward, immediately jumped up. "I don't need these problems at 9 in the morning." He retreated to the back of the bus at the speed of a man saving his own life. I sat down next to Maya because, apparently, I had become the kind of guy who takes orders from a girl he could lift with one arm. That realization didn't bring me joy. The bus started moving. Maya opened her backpack and, without looking at me, handed me a protein bar. "What's that?" "Food. You skipped breakfast." "You brought me food?" She rolled her eyes. "I brought food. You have a habit of displaying dietary irresponsibility in the most predictable way." That almost sounded like concern. It sounded like an attempt to improve the team's efficiency. I took the bar. Of course, it was my favorite brand. The universe clearly enjoyed my humiliation. The game itself went well, mostly because Maya yelled at me just enough to keep me from doing anything stupid. In the third quarter, I drifted too far to the wing. Maya slapped my shoulder and shouted, "No, mine!" Technically, she meant the playing zone. Probably. That was the official version, but it sounded like she was staking a claim on my person. I looked at her. She was embarrassed for a split second, then furiously pointed at the floor. "My wing! My wing, idiot!" But the word was already hanging in the air. Mine. And some treacherous part of me heard it before the correction followed. After the game, in the changing area, it got worse. Lena, one of the team managers, was handing out stat sheets and smiled at me. "Great game, Adrian." Before I could open my mouth, Maya, sitting nearby and furiously untying her shoe, interjected. "He always plays fine when he listens to what he's told." Lena blinked, looked at me, then at Maya, and smiled that knowing smile that women use when they understand the situation much faster than men. "Ah," she drawled. "Got it." That "got it" nearly finished me. There was no confusion in it. It was, I see, she considers him her property. When Lena left, I turned to Maya. "Did you just mark your territory in front of the staff?" "You're delusional," she stood up, holding her shoe like a weapon. "That's the plain truth. You just imagine it because a girl smiled at you and didn't die on the spot." "See, there it is," I pointed at her. "Why does that even bother you?" Maya opened her mouth, closed it, then said, "Because it's distracting." "What is?" "You." "That's not an answer." "It is for me." That evening, as we waited for equipment loading, everything finally fell into place. The coach asked for volunteers to help with the bags. I started to step forward, but Maya, without turning around, said, "No, you sit." "Excuse me?" "You ran for 40 minutes and your knee is acting up again." "That's not for you to decide." "If you're making bad decisions, I'll decide." The coach, walking by with his tablet, glanced at us and said, "Listen to Maya, Adrian." We both froze. Maya looked deeply satisfied with herself for exactly 1 second before putting her stern face back on. I sat down on the curb because the coach had given an order, and because my knee was indeed aching. Maya sat down beside me without an invitation, shoulder to shoulder, close enough to count. She handed me my water bottle, the one she had confiscated earlier. "You act like I belong to you," I said quietly. She froze, didn't get indignant, didn't act surprised, just froze. "Maybe that's the easiest way to manage you," she finally said. She was staring straight ahead, not taking back her words. And in that moment, I realized the scale of the disaster. My 4'10" partner wasn't just the boss or a protector. She acted as if I were her personal orbit. And the worst part? I had almost stopped wanting to convince her otherwise. The first time Maya forgot she was in charge here, I nearly suffered critical damage to my psyche. No, she didn't become tender overnight. With Maya, even vulnerability manifested in aggressive fragments, as if she'd applied to be human for a moment and then rejected her own application halfway through. It happened after Friday's practice, which had smoothly transitioned into torture. The coach had us doing interval running, and by the end, the gym resembled a battlefield of human pride against lactic acid. Everyone else had left, but I noticed Maya had stayed. Usually, she left first, proudly carrying her unshakable internal structure. But now she was sitting on the bottom row of the bleachers, elbows on her knees, staring at the floor as if it had personally insulted her. I walked over, having come up with no reasonable reason not to. "You alive?" She looked up, and there it was. No commands, no jabs, not a single comment about my posture. Just tiredness, real, unfiltered. "Stupid question," she breathed. "That sounds like yes." "That sounds like leave me alone." I sat down next to her. "That doesn't sound convincing." She made a quiet, irritated sound that would have carried more weight if she didn't look like she was about to fall asleep sitting up. And then I noticed her ankle. Taped again. She'd overdone it again and was pretending everything was fine. "You should get that checked," I nodded at the wrap. Maya looked at her foot as if it were a traitor. "It's fine." "That sounds familiar. That's literally your signature phrase." She forced the weakest, most exhausted smile in the world. Short, fleeting, but enough to make me feel like I'd been hit by a truck. Maya smiling when she forgets to be bossy. That should be banned by the Geneva Convention. "You know," I leaned back on the bleachers, "you're way less scary when you don't have the energy to control me." She glanced at me. "You say that as if I'm not right now making sure you aren't slouching." "Who are you watching? There's just us in the air in the gym." Maya reached up to take down her ponytail. The elastic snapped and dark hair fell over her shoulders. It looked too wrong in this lighting. Then she winced and rubbed her neck. "What's wrong?" "Nothing." That nothing was very expressive. "My shoulder is stiff," she grumbled. I couldn't help it and laughed. Maya looked genuinely offended. "What's funny?" "That's exactly what you tell me every day. Now you're in my place." She wanted to snap back, but her strength had left her. She just looked away, and I noticed her ears were red. With Maya, it was always like this. When caught acting like herself, she couldn't hide it gracefully. She just got quieter. I looked at her, small, disheveled, and suddenly too real. "Did you eat after practice?" She blinked, then frowned. "Why are you asking me that?" Seems like an obvious question. That got to her, not in a bad way. All the walls came down for a moment before she could rebuild them. "No," she admitted, "not hungry." "That's a lie. You yell at me for this yourself." "Yes," she agreed, "because you're bigger and dumber." I stood up and offered her my hand, just to tease. Maya looked at my palm, then at me, and for a second I thought she'd take it. But she stood up on her own. "I hate it when you act caring." "It's not caring, Maya. It's basic management." We walked to the vending machine in the hallway. I bought her a protein bar and a sports drink before she could start arguing. She accepted them as if I'd just delivered several personal insults in a row. And then the incredible happened. Maya leaned her shoulder against mine. It wasn't a hug, just a tired, momentary shift of balance. But for our pocket-sized tyrant, it was the equivalent of surrender. I looked down at her. She was boring a hole into the wrapper with her stare. "Don't make an event out of this," she muttered. I smiled. "Wasn't planning to." "Liar." She poked me in the ribs with her elbow. And in this empty hallway under the hum of the vending machine, I realized the scale of the disaster. I had fallen not just for Commander Maya. I had fallen for this, too. Her tired shoulder, her disheveled hair, and how she becomes almost shy when she forgets to control the world around her. This was much worse. Because now I didn't want to argue with her. I wanted to protect her. The conflict had been brewing for a while, but the detonator was Lena. Again. She hadn't done anything criminal. She was just cheerful, tall, and felt too comfortable in my personal space. It happened after practice. I was helping Lena untangle the straps on an equipment bag, some impossible puzzle of nylon and buckles. We were laughing about some stupid thing, and at that moment, I felt it. You know that specific change in air pressure when a pocket-sized berserker materializes within a 5-meter radius? I glanced sideways. Maya was standing by the water cooler, gripping her bottle as if it were the neck of her worst enemy. She wasn't taking her eyes off us. Lena, sensing something was wrong, quickly retreated once the strap came free. As soon as we were alone, Maya walked right up to me. Her step was measured and heavy, the way sappers walk when they've already decided they're not going to defuse anything and will just blow everything up. "We're leaving," she stated. "What? We're not done yet." "I'm done, so we're leaving." I straightened up, towering over her by a good foot, but at that moment, her authority had nothing to do with height. "Maya, what's your problem? You're acting like I need a license to talk to other people." "I don't like your tone," she crossed her arms, digging her fingers into her elbows. "And I don't like that you made Lena feel like she was trying to steal state secrets. What was that about?" Maya was silent. Her jaw was clenched so tight it looked like her teeth might crack. This time, the strict coach mask didn't just crack, it shattered. "You're jealous," I stated. "I don't do that nonsense." "Then why do you look like you're ready to declare a blood feud with Lena?" "Because she was looking at you," Maya suddenly burst out, and her voice wavered for a moment. "She was looking at you as if she had the right." I froze. This wasn't like her usual commanding shouts. It was pure, unguarded honesty that made me uneasy. "So what?" "So I hate it." She finally looked up at me, and there was so much in her gaze that my throat went dry. "I hate seeing you with someone who thinks they can have you." The gym was almost empty. The lights hummed, the air smelled of rubber and parquet, and I stood looking at the smallest and most insufferable girl in my life, who had just admitted proprietary rights over my person. "Do you realize how insane this is?" I asked quietly. "Yes." She breathed the word as if it weighed a ton. "I know, and I still can't help it." This wasn't management. This was attachment. Aggressive, prickly, and absolutely sincere. Why does it matter so much to you that I be yours? I stepped toward her, closing the already tiny distance. Maya smiled bitterly, looking somewhere in the vicinity of my chest. Because I think I'm the only one who knows how to handle you properly, and I don't want anyone else to mess it up. I looked at the top of her head, at her disheveled ponytail, and understood. My pocket-sized dictator was just damn scared of losing me. At that moment, I felt a strange mix of tenderness and triumph. You know, I touched her chin, making her look up at me again. You don't need to chase anyone away. They don't stand a chance anyway. Why not? She tried to get her fighting look back, but her voice betrayed her. Because I think I've gotten used to your despotism. Maya froze. Her face flooded with that rare blush she hated so much. She wanted to argue, to give another order, or at least insult my hair, but instead she just buried her face in my shirt. You're insufferable, she mumbled into the fabric. That's coming from someone who spent 3 weeks training me like a recruit. That evening in the empty gym, we finally stopped playing partner and manager. And although Maya was still half my size, her power over me at that moment became absolute. After Maya's jealousy broke through, events developed rapidly. No, she didn't turn into a gentle princess. Absolutely not. She remained the same Maya Kurose, sharp, fast, and emotionally hostile to all niceties. The only difference was that now I knew what all her behavior was built on. And when she barked, "Drink water!" I heard, "I think about you more than regulations allow, and it pisses me off." When she tugged my sleeve and ordered, "Sit here!" I heard, "I like being next to you too much." Our first kiss happened in the equipment closet. Of course, there's no more romantic setting than the smell of rubber, resistance bands, and the flickering light of fluorescent lamps. The coach had sent us to get cones. Apparently, the whole team had already accepted our social gravity and assigned us joint tasks like a developing ecosystem. Maya, naturally, had climbed onto the bottom shelf of the rack, trying to reach the top box. Pride wouldn't let her ask for help, and I walked in just in time to appreciate this acrobatic performance. Need help, pocket-sized tyrant? No, I'm doing inventory. You're literally hanging off the shelf. I came up behind her, put my hand on her waist to keep her from tipping over, and easily lifted the box down with my other hand. Maya froze. She was standing on the shelf, I was on the floor, and because of this height difference, our faces were level. The entire team dynamic at that moment officially died. I set the box on the floor but didn't move my hand. You're very big, she said quietly. It's strange you're only noticing that now. It's just that right now you're displaying spatial aggression. Maya blushed. Not deeply, but enough for me to completely lose it. And this time, she wasn't giving orders. She was just looking at me, trying to hide that she was being hit by the same wave as me. I kissed her. Maya kissed the way she did everything else, directly, intensely, and without a shred of doubt. When we pulled apart, she pressed her forehead into my chest, which, given our height difference, looked both touching and comical. I hate that this feels right, she grumbled. The team found out instantly, not because we made an announcement, but because Maya simply stopped hiding it. She slapped my hand in front of everyone when I grabbed the wrong tape, then immediately fixed my joint herself, saying, "God, what would you do without me?" Noah, watching this, just sighed. I'm going to be sick from this sweetness. I'm going to find someone less managed. By the end of the week, even the coach had accepted it. As long as my stats improved and Maya didn't attack people openly, he preferred to pretend everything was fine. Lena just smiled knowingly every time she saw us together, and we didn't care, because now we had our everything. Our place on the bus, her eternal protein bars in my backpack, because you'll forget again, and her rare, genuine smile when I called her sweet, and she was too busy to start yelling at me. One evening, after a late practice, we were the last ones left in the hallway. Maya was sitting on a bench, grumbling about the whole team's creative incompetence. I stood in front of her and said, "You do realize I only fell for you because you're mean." Maya snorted. "That sounds like nonsense." "It's the pure truth." "That's not romantic." "It is romantic when it's a 4'10" girl who runs my life like a hostile committee." She laughed, a real warm laugh. Then she stood up, noticed my shoelace was untied, and before I could blink, bent down and tied it herself. "You even do this badly after practice," she muttered. I looked at the top of her head and understood. I hadn't fallen for just a cute partner. I had fallen for this whole insane package. Huge ambitions in a tiny body, a sharp tongue, and the hidden care she disguised as management. Yes, Maya Kurose was small, but she had absolute authority over me, over my hydration schedule, over my knees, and over my nervous system. And honestly, resisting this wasn't only useless, it was strategically unwise. I adored this little terror, because it was hers.
4'10", 4'10", oh. Hey, hey, 4'10", oh. Tuesday conditioning, coach made the call. Adrian, you're with Maya, and I should've walked the wall. Marched up to me like she'd already read my file. Said you're slower than expected with a battle general smile. Tied my hair, fixed my stance, called my sneakers slow. Said your knees are optional and you should probably know. 4'10" on a good day, sneakers on her feet. Pocket size commander with the energy of heat. She said 5-minute stretch or tomorrow's gonna hurt. And I sat down like she'd ordered me to dirt. And I knew, oh I knew, oh I knew right then I was done, oh I was done, amen. She's 4'10" and she runs my whole life. 4'10" and she's never gonna be nice. Calls my shoes the slow ones, calls my form a crime, but she's saving me a seat on the bus every time. 4'10", 4'10", she'll insult me, then defend me from the other men. My wing, she shouted, oh, but we both heard mine. And I let her, and I'm letting her every time. 4'10". Brent made a joke and I felt the pressure drop. She walked up like a sapper who had no plans to stop. Said you can be a bad player or a bad conversation. Pick one. Brent, the combo's an embarrassment to the nation. Then she turned to me and said, your time is still wrong. Didn't even ask if I was okay, didn't pretend to be strong. Cause only she's allowed to call me out. Ooh, that's the rule, and I made it long ago. She brought me a protein bar on the bus before the game. Said it's not concern, it's just team efficiency the same. But she got my favorite brand, oh she got my favorite kind. And I think she's been living in my mind. She's 4'10" and she runs my whole life. 4'10" and she's never gonna be nice. Calls my shoes the slow ones, calls my form a crime, but she's saving me a seat on the bus every time. 4'10", oh, 4'10", she'll insult me, then defend me from the other men. My wing, she shouted, oh, but we both heard mine. And I let her, and I'm letting her every time. Friday in the gym, she was sitting tired on the bench, ankle taped again, doing all her ankle shenanigans. Hair out of its pony, shoulder stiff, eyes down, and she leaned on my shoulder for one round. She said, I hate seeing you with someone who thinks they can have you. Said, I think I'm the only one who knows what to do when you drift left under pressure, when you don't eat right. And I touched her chin and I made her see the light. Said they don't stand a chance, they never did. Said I'm used to your despotism and I kinda love the kid in cool sneakers, running my whole damn week. She buried her face in my shirt and called me weak. And I said, yeah, 4'10", you got me, you got me. She's 4'10" and she's running my life. 4'10" and I felt every effect.